Hello students, today we'll have a summary or the glance on the topic that is respiration in plants. When this question arises regarding the respiration, do plant breathe? The answer for this would be yes, of course, plant will respire. But the thing is that as such in case of the animals, plants don't have the special respiratory organs for the respiration. But in case of animals, the animals have the well developed respiratory organs or the respiratory system for the respiration. So in case of the plants, when we talk about the respiration, as I said, yes, respiration occurs. During respiration, what the plants will do, they have some special organs or some special structures called as the lenticels or the structures called as stomata. You might have heard. On the leaf, you are going to find the pores of the openings called as the stomata, and on the stem, you find the structures called as the lenticels. So through these pores or through these openings, the exchange of the gases occurs in case of the plants. So this is one thing. And how this occurs? It is just by the simple mechanism that is called as diffusion, where the gases will be diffused from the atmosphere into the cells of the plant. So this is one thing we need to remember. So for the respiration, the plants have the special structures called as lenticels or the stomata for the exchange of the gases. And when you look into the reaction of this respiration, what we say actually, whenever the student is asked define respiration or what is respiration, say the chemical reaction for the respiration. So simply what they say, they will take the carbon dioxide and they leave the oxygen. But this is not the this is not the reaction for the respiration. This will become the reaction for the photosynthesis, because during photosynthesis what the plants will do, they will intake carbon dioxide and they will leave what? The carbon dioxide. So exactly the reverse or the opposite of the photosynthesis is what? The respiration. So in respiration what happens? Oxidation of food molecules occurs. So which is the food molecule that is undergoing the oxidation here? It is the glucose. So that glucose is undergoing the oxidation here and it is broken down to form the compounds or the molecules called as what? The carbon dioxide and water with the release of energy. So the main purpose of this respiration is the release of energy. So where this energy is stored? This energy is stored in the glucose, or I can say the energy is present in the food molecules. So in the form of chemical energy, and that chemical energy or the energy that is present in the chemical bonds, that has to be broken down to have the energy, and this energy is very much necessary to carry out the various metabolic activities that are undergoing in our body. So in order to define the respiration, it is nothing but it is simply the oxidation of food molecules, where the carbon-carbon bonds which are present in the molecules such as carbohydrates, proteins, fats are broken down and finally the energy is released. And you must concentrate on this, that is the reaction glucose plus oxygen will give rise to carbon dioxide, water with the release of ATP. This is the reaction of respiration. And when you talk about this respiration, we find two types of respiration. The first type is called as aerobic respiration. The second one is called as anaerobic respiration. The name itself indicates if the oxygen is used in the process, it is called as aerobic respiration. If the oxygen is not utilized, it is called as anaerobic respiration. And where do you find this aerobic respiration? We find them in higher plants and animals, whereas this anaerobic respiration is seen in bacteria, fungi and certain endoparasites or certain organisms which are present in the body of others. Say for example methanogens, bacteria which is present in the the canal of the ruminants. So there we find anaerobic respiration, and in this case glucose is completely oxidized or completely broken down to form what? The carbon dioxide and water, the simple molecules, whereas here the glucose is partially oxidized to form the carbon dioxide with the ethyl alcohol and lactic acid with the release of carbon dioxide. here completely the oxidase is broken down, and on the oxidation of one molecule of glucose we will end up with 38 ATP molecules. But in case of anaerobic respiration, as the partial oxidation occurs here, we will end up with only 2 ATP molecules. And this process takes place in cytoplasm and mitochondria. That is, aerobic respiration takes place in mitochondria and in cytoplasm, whereas the anaerobic respiration takes place in the cytoplasm and the cell. So we need to remember all these concepts. And the next concept which we have to concentrate here is, where do you find all these respiration? So when we say, as you said, we find them. Aerobic respiration is seen in higher plants and animals. Anaerobic respiration is seen in some of the bacteria, fungi, endoparasites. When we talk about this aerobic respiration, apart from the lower organisms, do we find this aerobic respiration? When this question arises, of course we find, not the aerobic respiration, I am talking about the anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration, we find it in bacteria, fungi and certain endoparasites. Apart from that, in the muscle cells of our body, during the fatigue, we find the anaerobic respiration due to the inadequate supply of the oxygen. And then the RBC cells who are lacking the mitochondria, because mitochondria is a very much essential organelle for the aerobic respiration. So as they lack the mitochondria, even though they transport the oxygen, in the RBC we are going to find what the anaerobic respiration. So you should keep this in mind. So first we will talk about the first type of respiration, that is cellular respiration or the aerobic respiration we need to concentrate. So the first step of this cellular respiration or the aerobic respiration is glycolysis. And you just think this glycolysis is the first step which is common for both aerobic and anaerobic respiration, and always remember where it occurs in the cytosol or the cytoplasm. The product of the glycolysis is the pyruvic acid, and then that pyruvic acid enters into Krebs cycle in case of the aerobic respiration, and from that Krebs cycle the next step is the electron transport system. And then the products of all this respiration are, as already we know, it is carbon dioxide and water with the release of what? With the release of the ATP. So this is all about what the steps of aerobic respiration. So we'll concentrate on the first step of aerobic respiration, and even it becomes the step for the anaerobic also. So glycolysis, the name itself indicates here what happens. The glucose molecule is broken down, which is a 6 carbon compound, is broken down into 2 molecules of 3 carbon compound, that is called as pyruvate. So glucose lysate, that is breakdown of glucose. And this glycolysis is also termed as you all know, it is called as EMP pathway, because it is, the steps were studied and explained by the scientists called Embeden, Meyerhoff and Paranas. That is why it is called as the EMP pathway. Literally, when you look into the different steps, you are going to find the 10 sequential reactions in this glycolysis. So we can study that by the 10 different steps. The first step in the glycolysis is, you can find here, conversion of glucose into glucose 6-phosphate, you can find, and this step is called as what? The phosphorylation, during which to this glucose the phosphate molecule is added. Because of that we will end up with the molecule that is called as glucose 6-phosphate, and here the phosphate donor is the ATP. It will donate and it will come out as what? ADP, and it is catalyzed by the enzyme kinase. The second step is conversion of glucose 6-phosphate to fructose 6-phosphate. This is just an isomerization reaction where the aldose form of the glucose gets converted into ketose form, that is called as the fructose. And the third reaction here, it would be called as the phosphorylation. Again, here what happens, again a molecule of phosphate is been added to the fructose so that it gets converted into biphosphate. So we call it as what? Fructose 1,6 biphosphate. Again it is catalyzed by, or the enzyme can be named as phosphofructokinase. The next step is the lysis, where the 6 carbon, till now the carbon molecules, carbon atoms present here are 6. So this gets broken down into what? 2 3 carbon compounds. Those are dihydroxyacetone phosphate and glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. And the next, the fifth step which you can find here is the isomerization. Whatever this DHAP and PGAL are there, both are the isomeric forms. The next step, that is the sixth step in case of the glycolysis, is oxidative phosphorylation. So oxidation means here we are removing the hydrogen atoms from the glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. So those removed hydrogen atoms are picked by NAD and that gets reduced to NADH2. So here 2 molecules of NADH2 are synthesized and a molecule, a phosphate group is added here. Because of that, the compound which we get here is 1,3-diphosphoglyceric acid, and the enzyme is glyceraldehyde phosphate dehydrogenase. The 7th step is the ATP synthesis. Here what happens, from the 1,3-diphosphoglyceric acid, a phosphate group is being removed and that is going to combine with ADP, so that ATP gets converted into ATP. So here 2 molecules of ATP synthesis takes place. So this is called as what? The substrate level phosphorylation. So what is substrate level phosphorylation? When you remove a phosphate group from a compound, which is the compound here 1,3-diphosphoglyceric acid, and that is added to ADP, so that synthesis of ATP occurs. This is called as what? Substrate level phosphorylation. Understood. And the next step is the 8th one, that is called as isomerization. Here what happens, simply the shifting of the carbon molecules or the shifting of the phosphate groups occurs, so that 3-phosphoglyceric acid gets converted into 2-phosphoglyceric acid, and the enzyme that catalyzes it is the isomerization. And the next step after the isomerization is dehydration, where we are removing a molecule of water. Because of that, the 2-phosphoglyceric acid gets converted into 2-phosphoenol pyruvate. And finally, the 10th step is again would be ATP synthesis, during which from phosphoenol pyruvate a phosphate group is removed that is going to combine with this ADP, and that ADP gets converted into ATP, so that ultimately what is synthesized? Pyruvic acid is synthesized. So this is all about what the sequential steps, and ultimately in this glycolysis what we are going to get? We are going to get 2 molecules of NADH2. So 2 molecules of NADH2 after entering into electron transport system. That is, 1 molecule of NADH2 produces 3 molecules of ATP, whereas how many NADH2 are produced here? 2 are produced. So ultimately how many ATPs we get from the NADH2? That is 6 molecules of ATP we are going to get. And direct ATP synthesis, that is between this step here and here. How many ATP are synthesized? 4 ATP are synthesized. So ultimately 10 ATP molecules are synthesized here. Even though, and in the beginning step, as we have added or as we have lost 2 ATP molecules, ultimately what we have to do, we have to go for the subtraction of 2 ATP molecules. So ultimately the net gain of ATP during the glycolysis would be 8 ATP molecules. So this is all about glycolysis. The next step is oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid. The product of the glycolysis is what? The pyruvic acid. It will undergo oxidation, during which the hydrogens are removed, those are picked up by NAD, and it gets converted into NADH2. And decarboxylation, I said we are going to remove the carbon dioxide from the pyruvate. So we call it as decarboxylation, and ultimately the compound which we get is the 2-carbon compound, as we have removed 1 carbon atom in the form of carbon dioxide. So it is called as what? The 2-carbon compound, and we are adding a coenzyme in here. So the product of the oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid is what? The acetyl-CoA, and this acetyl-CoA acts as the junction between the glycolysis and the Krebs cycle. So now this acetyl-CoA is ready to enter into the next step of the aerobic respiration, that is called as Krebs cycle. It is called as tricarboxylic acid cycle. It is called organic acid cycle, mitochondrial respiration, oxidation of pyruvate, citric acid. So these are all the names for the Krebs cycle. It is called Krebs cycle because it was discovered by the scientist called Sir Hans Krebs. So it is called, and it is called as mitochondrial respiration because it operates in the mitochondria. And it is called as citric acid cycle because the first compound formed is the citric acid. These are the names which are given for the Krebs cycle. When you look into the different steps of this Krebs cycle, so we'll begin with the first compound that is entering the Krebs cycle, that is the acetyl-CoA. This acetyl-CoA is a 2-carbon compound. So this 2-carbon compound is going to combine with the oxaloacetate here to form the 6-carbon compound that is called as the citrate. And the enzyme that catalyzes this reaction is called as citrate synthase, and the reaction is named as the condensation reaction. the second step, that is conversion of citrate to alpha ketoglutarate. You must remember here. So the conversion of citrate to alpha ketoglutarate is called as oxidative decarboxylation. Here hydrogens are removed from the citrate that are picked up by NAD, and that NAD gets converted into NADH2. So here 2 molecules of NADH2 are synthesized. And as I said, oxidative decarboxylation, again we are removing the carbon dioxide here. So here we remove 2 molecules of carbon dioxide. So ultimately the product would be alpha ketoglutarate, and the enzyme is citrate dehydrogenase. The next third step that we find in the Krebs cycle is, again it is oxidative decarboxylation, during which the alpha ketoglutarate gets converted into what? The succinyl CoA. Here it is not given, then I'll write succinyl CoA, it gets converted, and during this step also what happens, NAD gets converted into NADH2 by picking the hydrogens, those are coming from the alpha ketoglutarate. The next step is the conversion of succinyl CoA to succinate. And remember, during this step what happens, a molecule of ATP is synthesized, a molecule of ATP. So as 2 molecules of acetyl CoA are entering into Krebs cycle, whatever the outcome we get, you have to multiply that with 2. So conversion of succinyl CoA to succinate, 2 molecules of ATP, that we have to remember. And then the next step is conversion of succinate to fumarate. Here it must come the fumarate, but it is not given here. Anyhow, you have to concentrate the intermediate compounds. So during the conversion of succinate to fumarate, what happens? We call this step as the oxidation. We call that step as oxidation, where the hydrogen atoms are removed from the succinate, and those hydrogens are picked up by FAD, and that FAD gets reduced to what? FADH2. Here 2 molecules of FADH2 are synthesized, and later that fumarate gets converted into what? Malate. Synthesis of the malate occurs here just by the addition of the water, so it is called as hydration. And the last step in the Krebs cycle is the conversion of malate into oxaloacetate. Again this would be what? Oxidation. So during this what happens, the hydrogen atoms are removed from the malate, and that hydrogen atoms are picked up by NAD, and NAD gets converted into NADH2. Understood? So here you have to remember at how many, where all in all the steps, in what all are the steps where the NADH2 has synthesized, and how many NADH2. You can find here, this is first step, this is the another one, and this is another one. So totally how many NADH2? 6 NADH2 are synthesized, and how many FADH2? 2 FADH2 are synthesized, and how many ATP during these steps? So remember, 2 ATP molecules are synthesized. So when you compare this, from 1 NADH2 we get 3 ATP, and from 1 FADH2 we get 2 ATP, and from direct synthesis is 2 ATP. So when you calculate all that from Krebs cycle, we will be having how many ATP? It is 24 ATP molecules. And the last step is the electron transport system, which you can come across here, that is we call it as the electron transport system. And you know very well the products of the Krebs cycle. The products of the Krebs cycle are or the glycolysis, or the oxidative decarboxylation of pyruvic acid, or the Krebs cycle. When you go back to all these 3 steps, the main products which we get during all these are the NADH2 and FADH2. During this electron transport system, whatever the NADH2 and FADH2 are there, these will be oxidized to form what? The ATP. From the NADH2 and FADH2, ATP synthesis occurs in this reaction. So that is why it is called as oxidative phosphorylation. That is, oxidation of the FADH2 and NADH2 leads to the synthesis of the synthesis of the ATP. So it is called as oxidative phosphorylation. It is called as electron transport system because whatever the electrons which we get due to the splitting of the hydrogen atoms are carried by the sequential electron acceptors which are present in the inner membrane of the mitochondria. So it is called as electron transport system. So you can find here. So now we'll begin with this electron transport system. So whatever the structure you find here, so this is the inner membrane of the mitochondria. Inner membrane of the mitochondria mainly consists of 4 complex molecules. The first complex you can find here, it is called as NADH reductase. The second complex you can find here, it is called as succinate reductase, and you find the complex 3 here, it is called as cytochrome reductase, and you find the complex 4 here, it is called cytochrome oxidase. And the last one which you find here, it is also embedded in the membrane, it is called as complex 5, which is nothing but the ATP synthase. And these play a very important, these all are the proteins that are present in the inner membrane of the mitochondria, and this is very much essential for the operation of the electron transport system. So now let's begin the further steps here. So to start with the electron transport system, so we have to take the NADH2 and FADH2 which are produced during the glycolysis and the Krebs cycle. So these NADH2 and FADH2, they will move to the inner membrane of the mitochondria. And during the reaction, what happens, whatever the hydrogens are there, they will be, they will get oxidized. So how they are get oxidized? Just by removal of the hydrogen atoms that are present here. So we say NADH2 means what we say, hydrogen is there, FADH2 means hydrogen is there. So these are removed, that is why it is called as the oxidation. And whatever these hydrogens are removed from NADH2 and FMN, they will be transferred to, or they are first accepted by the complex 1. The removed hydrogen from the NADH2 are accepted by the complex 1, whereas the hydrogens which are removed from the FADH2 are accepted by the complex 2. So after the acceptance of these hydrogen, or I can say before the acceptance, whatever the hydrogen here are there, so all those hydrogens will be split into, so when this hydrogen is there, so this will split to form what? The protons, I can say, and this will split to form what? The electrons. So whatever these hydrogen atoms or protons are there, all those protons, first the proton from the NADH will be picked up by complex 1 and from the FADH2 will be picked up by complex 2. After picking, all those proteins will be sent into the intermembrane space, whereas the electrons which are left will be accepted by the series of electron acceptors that are present in the inner membrane. Those are complex 1, complex 2, complex 3, complex 4. So first it is accepted by the complex 1, and these reactions which we find here are called as redox reactions, during which simultaneously the reduction and oxidations reaction occur here. So whatever the electrons are there, those electrons, let me show here. The first, whatever the protons are there, protons will be sent into the intermembrane space of the mitochondria. And then what happens, the electrons which are formed by the splitting of the hydrogens will be picked up by the series of electron acceptors. So from this, the electron acceptors will be carried by complex 1, and then from that it is transferred to complex 2, and then to the complex 3, and then from that to the complex 4, the transportation of the electron carriers, transportation of the electron occurs. Whatever this complex 1 is there, here we find FMN as the electron acceptor. Next we are going to find the ubiquinone in the complex 2. Complex 3 will be made up of cytochrome B proteins, and complex 4 will be made up of cytochrome A and cytochrome C. So these are the complexes which will accept the electrons coming out. So when they receive and then when they will leave, they will be oxidized and they will be reduced. So these are the things which we need to remember, which occurs in the electron transport system. So finally electrons will get transported across all these complexes that are present in the inner membrane, and those electrons, what happens to those electrons? Those electrons are going to combine with, those electrons are going to combine with, here I'll take, so 2 molecules of proton will be there, half molecule of oxygen will be there. LE, it is in the matrix of the mitochondria. Where it is present is the matrix of the mitochondria. So those 2 electrons will combine with 2 protons and half molecule of oxygen, and finally what is synthesized? Water is formed here. So as the electron acceptor at the end of the electron transport system is the oxygen here, it is called as terminal oxidation. So this is how the transportation of the electron occurs. Because of this, what happens? A gradient is created here. Gradient means concentration of the proton will be more outside the matrix, that is in the inner membrane space, intermembrane space. Whereas in the matrix what happens, the concentration of the proton will be less. We call this as what? The gradient. Proton is more outside and it is less inside. So when this gradient is created, you know always the transportation of the molecules occur from region of higher concentration to lower concentration. They will start moving from the intermembrane space into the matrix of the mitochondria. So for the transportation, there are some carrier proteins or some complex file which is called as ATP synthase, which is embedded in the inner membrane of the mitochondria is present. It acts as a channel protein or the carrier protein through which the protons will start migrating into the matrix. So during the transportation, amount of energy is released and that energy is called as EMF, that is electron motive force. So with that energy, with the released energy, that energy is utilized for the synthesis of the ATP here. That is, with the use of that energy, the inorganic phosphate is going to combine with the ADP to synthesize what? ATP. So that is the reason why what we say, NADH2 after entering into electron transport system, it leads to the synthesis of ATP. How many ATP? 3 ATP I said. And FADH2 after entering into electron transport system, it will lead to synthesis of 2 ATP. So this is how the coupling of the synthesis of the, ATP synthesis is coupled with the oxidation of the NADH2 and FADH2 in the electron transport system. So this is all regarding what the electron transport system, or the last step of the aerobic respiration. And this is what the balance sheet. In the glycolysis, we will have 8 ATP molecules from NADH2 in direct synthesis, and in the oxidative decarboxylation we have 6 ATP, and ultimately in the TCA cycle we have 24. So ultimately at the end of the aerobic respiration, we will have how many ATP molecules? 38 ATP molecules. So this is all about what the aerobic respiration. And the last concept which we need to study here is the anaerobic respiration, or it is called as the fermentation. So anaerobic respiration doesn't require oxygen, you all know, and in this anaerobic respiration, the first step is again the glycolysis. In the glycolysis, glucose is broken down into pyruvate. In aerobic respiration, what happens? This pyruvate will enter into the Krebs cycle. But in case of anaerobic respiration, what happens? Either it may undergo the production of lactic acid, or it may undergo the production of the ethyl alcohol. So first we will concentrate on the lactic acid fermentation. So you will just concentrate the glucose. So glucose through glycolysis is going to produce what? The pyruvate. And you know the products of the glycolysis, 2 molecules of ATP are synthesized, 2 molecules of NADH2 are synthesized. So whatever the pyruvate is there, it undergoes what? Reduction here. To this pyruvate, whatever the NADH2 which is synthesized during the glycolysis there, it is going to donate its hydrogen and it will come out as what? NAD, and those hydrogens are added to whom? Those hydrogens are added to pyruvate, so that ultimately we will end up with the compound that is called as the lactic acid. And remember, here there is no release, or there is no synthesis of the carbon dioxide in the lactic acid fermentation. And how many carbon atoms you find here? Because we have not yet removed any carbon dioxide here. So as same as that of the pyruvate, the lactic will also have 3 carbon atoms here. And the next is alcohol fermentation. Here also same we find where the glucose undergoes the glycolysis to form the compound that is called as pyruvate. And here one thing you can notice, from the pyruvate we are removing the carbon dioxide. That is why in alcohol fermentation we find the formation of the carbon dioxide. As we remove one carbon atom in the form of carbon dioxide, the number of the carbon atoms in the upcoming product will be how many? 2 carbon atoms. This also we must remember. So from pyruvate, next when we remove carbon dioxide, what is formed? Acetaldehyde is formed. So this acetaldehyde is now gets reduced. Reduced means again we are removing the hydrogen atoms from the NADH2. You may ask from where this NADH2 comes. You know, during glycolysis, whatever the NADH2 is formed, from that NADH2 hydrogens are removed and that hydrogens are added to whom? Those are added to the acetaldehyde, so that it gets reduced to what? Ethanol. And NADH2 after donating hydrogen, it will come out as what? It will come out as NAD. So this is how at the end products of alcohol fermentation are 2 molecules of alcohol and 2 molecules of carbon dioxide. And whatever this respiration is there, respiration is considered as the catabolic pathway during which the respiratory substrate, fats, carbohydrates and proteins are considered as the respiratory substrate. These are the molecules which are undergoing the respiration are called as the respiratory substrate, you know very well. So this respiratory pathway or respiration can be considered as amphibolic pathway. Why? Because amphi means dual. It will act as an anabolism, it will act as an catabolism. So why? Because anabolism means synthesis, catabolism means breakdown. So during this respiration, you have seen the breakdown of some of the molecules such as fats, carbohydrates and proteins. In that case, we can consider it as what the catabolism. And sometimes we consider it as anabolism, because why we consider it as anabolism? Because the intermediate products which we find in the Krebs cycle, say carbon dioxide and water, so whatever these are there, or say acetyl-CoA, whatever these are there, they are ultimately used up in again the synthesis of the fatty acids, or sometimes for the synthesis of the other molecules. That is why it will become, it acts as an amphibolic pathway, that is both anabolism and the catabolism. And the last concept is the respiratory quotient you need to calculate. So respiratory quotient can be calculated as the volume of carbon dioxide evolved divided by volume of consumed, and always remember respiratory quotient for carbohydrate is 1, and for fats it is less than 1, and for proteins it is 0.9. So keeping this in mind, if you remember this formula, that is respiratory quotient is equal to volume of carbon dioxide evolved divided by volume of oxygen consumed, easily we can calculate the respiratory quotient. So one example I'll let you know here. So that is, you can consider this, the respiratory substrate that is undergoing respiration is the glucose. So you can find the reaction, how many molecules of carbon dioxide have evolved? 6, divided by how many oxygen? 6. So 6 by 6, it would be what? The respiratory quotient would be 1. And the same with respect to this, the next I am taking the fat. For fat it is less than 1. One of the example I have taken is the tripalmitin. This is the formula of the tripalmitin. So here you can find 1 or 2 molecules of carbon dioxide and 145 molecules of oxygen have involved. So 1 or 2 divided by 145, ultimately what is the respiratory quotient? It is 0.7. So with this, I'll conclude. Thank you.